Ethan Matthews was a typical 16-year-old teenager living in a quiet suburban neighborhood. He resided with his parents and his younger sister, Mia, in a cozy house that had always been the backdrop for countless happy memories. Ethan attended the local high school, maintaining a well-established routine of classes, basketball practices, and hanging out with friends. His life seemed perfect to anyone who knew him. Ethan was known for his friendliness and ease in making friends. He spent his weekends playing video games with his friends or watching horror movies, his favorite genre. Despite his interest in scary stories, he always kept one foot in reality, balancing his hobbies with his studies effectively. However, there was something in Ethan's past that few were aware of. Years ago, during his sophomore year of high school, he had been harassed by unwanted messages from an email account he couldn't block. These messages were disturbing and invasive, forcing him to make the difficult decision to block the address to protect his peace of mind. Since then, Ethan avoided any contact with that account, focusing on moving forward and forgetting the incident. Ethan's routine remained peaceful until a rainy Friday afternoon. He was in his room, finishing a school project, when he noticed an email notification on his phone. Curious, he opened the message and saw that it was from an email account he had blocked years ago. His heart raced, remembering the unpleasant experiences of the past. Thinking it might be a mistake or even spam, Ethan hesitated for a moment before deciding to ignore the message and return to his work. Little did he know that this simple act of ignoring the email would be the first step toward a series of events that would shake his life in ways he could never have imagined. As the rain continued to pour outside, Ethan had no idea that what was coming would challenge his perception of reality and safety, plunging him into a nightmare of unsettling predictions and silent threats. The morning after the rainy Friday afternoon, Ethan Matthews tried to push the unsettling email out of his mind. He woke up early, as usual, and began his day with a typical routine. Breakfast was a quiet affair, with his parents busy discussing household plans and his sister, Mia, excitedly sharing stories about her latest school project. Ethan exchanged brief pleasantries with them before grabbing his backpack and heading out the door for another day at school. Throughout the day, Ethan struggled to concentrate on his classes. His mind kept drifting back to the email notification he had ignored the previous evening. He glanced at his phone several times, half expecting another message to appear, but nothing came. Trying to shake off the unease, he focused on his studies, participating in class discussions, and taking notes diligently. After school, Ethan attended basketball practice, a welcome distraction from the lingering anxiety. Shooting hoops and strategizing plays with his teammates usually helped him relax, but today, his thoughts remained clouded with worry. He couldn't help but wonder if the blocked email account had been compromised or if someone was intentionally trying to reach out to him again. That evening, as Ethan sat in his room working on a history assignment, his phone buzzed with a new email notification. His heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the screen and saw that it was from the same blocked email address. A surge of dread washed over him, but curiosity got the better of him. Taking a deep breath, he opened the message. The subject line read, "Do you remember?" The email was short and cryptic. "Ethan, remember when you tried to block me? Some things never stay hidden. Watch closely." Ethan's hands trembled as he read the message. His mind raced to recall any significant events related to the blocked account, but nothing stood out. He had long forgotten the harassment he had endured, hoping to leave it all behind. Yet, the email suggested that whatever he thought was over was far from it. Determined to understand what was happening, Ethan decided to investigate further. He sat down at his computer and tried to access the blocked email account, hoping to find some clues. To his frustration, the account remained inaccessible, just as it had been for years. He realized that whatever was trying to reach him was doing so without leaving a trace, deepening the mystery. Ethan shared his concerns with his best friend, Jason, after school the next day. They met at their usual spot in the school cafeteria, away from the noise and prying eyes. Ethan explained the situation, showing Jason the latest email. Jason listened intently, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "Maybe someone hacked your account," he suggested. "We should check your computer for any malware or something." Ethan nodded, appreciating Jason's support. Together, They went back to Ethan's house after school and ran a thorough scan of his computer. Hours passed without any sign of malicious software or unauthorized access. Frustrated and no closer to answers, they decided to seek help from Mark, another friend who was tech-savvy and always eager to assist. Mark arrived at Ethan's house later that evening, armed with his laptop and a stack of technical manuals. He meticulously examined Ethan's devices, running advanced diagnostics and tracing network activity. Despite his efforts, Mark found nothing unusual. "This is getting creepy," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's like these emails are coming from nowhere." As the three friends brainstormed possible explanations, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. Strange noises echoed through his house at night. Doors creaking, footsteps in the hallway, and whispers that seemed to come from thin air. Mia, his younger sister, noticed his growing anxiety and tried to comfort him. But Ethan kept the truth to himself, not wanting to worry her or his parents. One night, as Ethan lay in bed, the phone buzzed again with another email notification. This time, the subject was even more ominous. "You can't escape." The message read, "The future is already written. Your time is running out." Ethan's blood ran cold. He glanced around his room, feeling a presence that wasn't there. He grabbed his phone, contemplating whether to respond or continue ignoring the messages. The fear that someone or something was orchestrating these events gnawed at him, making it difficult to find peace even in his own home. Unable to sleep, Ethan decided to confront the situation head-on. He began documenting each email, noting the times they arrived and any patterns he could discern. He reached out to online forums and communities, hoping to find others who had experienced similar phenomena. While he found a few anecdotal stories, nothing concrete, it provided a small measure of solace knowing he wasn't entirely alone. As days turned into weeks, the frequency of the emails increased. Each message grew more personal, referencing details about Ethan's life that only he would know. The fear of being constantly watched and the anticipation of what the next email might bring weighed heavily on him. Ethan realized that this was no ordinary case of cyber harassment. Something far more sinister was at play. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan delved deeper into his past, revisiting old memories and connections that might explain the resurgence of the blocked email account. He reached out to former classmates, teachers, and even family friends, searching for any clue that could shed light on the mysterious messages. Slowly, fragments of a forgotten incident began to surface, an event that Ethan had long suppressed, but was now pulling him back into a web of fear and uncertainty. With each revelation, the pieces of the puzzle started to align, suggesting that the messages were not just random acts of intimidation, but part of a larger, more intricate plan. Ethan's journey to uncover the truth was only beginning, and he knew that the answers he sought would come at a steep cost. As the shadows of his past loomed closer, Ethan prepared himself for the challenges that lay ahead, unaware of the depths of darkness he was about to face. In the weeks that followed the unsettling encounter in the park, Ethan Matthews found himself enveloped in a relentless storm of anxiety and fear. The emails from the blocked account had not only continued, but had grown more frequent and disturbing. Each new message contained precise details about accidents involving people close to Ethan, making it impossible for him to dismiss them as mere coincidences. One Monday morning, Ethan received an email with the subject line, "Stay safe today." The message detailed a minor car accident involving his friend Jason, specifying the time and location with eerie accuracy. Ethan's heart pounded as he read through the predictions, each word sinking deeper into his consciousness. The following afternoon, just as the email had foretold, Jason was involved in a minor collision on his way home from school. Though the accident was minor and Jason escaped unharmed, the precision of the prediction left Ethan shaken to his core. As the days turned into weeks, the pattern became unmistakable. Each email meticulously described an incident that soon after transpired exactly as foretold. From a small fire at Emily's house to a bike accident at the local park, Ethan watched helplessly as his friends and acquaintances experienced the events predicted in the messages. The accuracy of the prophecies deepened his sense of dread and helplessness, making him question the very nature of these communications. Determined to uncover the truth behind the emails, Ethan began keeping a detailed journal. He meticulously recorded each message, noting the time it was received, its content, and the subsequent real-life event it predicted. Through this methodical approach, he hoped to identify any patterns or clues that could lead him to the sender. However, the more he delved into the investigation, the more elusive the answers became. Ethan's obsession with the emails began to take a toll on his daily life. His grades started to slip as he struggled to concentrate in class, and his once vibrant social life dwindled as he withdrew from friends and activities. Basketball practices, which had once been a source of joy and camaraderie, became stressful obligations that only heightened his anxiety. The weight of knowing that his friends were in danger made it difficult for him to find any sense of normalcy or peace. One evening, as Ethan reviewed the latest email predicting a near-miss accident for his friend Lisa, he felt a presence in his room. He turned around to find the room bathed in an unnatural chill, the air thick with an oppressive silence. Shadows seemed to dance at the edges of his vision, and a low, almost inaudible whisper filled the space. "You can't escape what's coming," the voice murmured, sending a shiver down his spine. Ethan jumped up, heart racing, but there was nothing there. The room returned to its usual dimness, but the lingering sense of being watched refused to leave him. He glanced at his phone, hoping for a message that might explain the eerie occurrence, but it remained silent. The incident left him more terrified than ever, convinced that whatever force was behind the emails was now directly targeting him. Seeking solace, Ethan reached out to his older sister, Mia, hoping she could offer some comfort or at least a listening ear. Mia, perceptive and caring, immediately noticed the change in Ethan's demeanor. She sat beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Ethan, talk to me. What's going on?" Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he recounted the emails and the recent paranormal experience. Mia listened intently, her expression shifting from concern to determination. "We need to get to the bottom of this together," she said firmly. "You're not alone in this." Encouraged by his sister's support, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they decided to take a different approach. Mia suggested they delve into the history of the blocked email account, hoping to uncover any information that might reveal its origin. They spent hours combing through old-school records, social media profiles, and any available data that could provide a lead. Despite their efforts, the account remained shrouded in mystery, with no trace of its original owner or purpose. Frustrated but not defeated, Ethan and Mia turned to online communities, sharing their story in forums dedicated to unexplained phenomena and cyber mysteries. To their surprise, they received responses from individuals who had experienced similar occurrences. Some claimed to have received premonitory messages, while others spoke of being watched by unseen forces. These shared experiences provided a glimmer of hope, suggesting that Ethan was not alone and that there might be a way to break the cycle. One night, as Ethan sat in his room, surrounded by notes and articles, he received another email. The subject line read, "This is not over." The message was more personal than any before, addressing him by name and referencing specific details about his life that only he would know. It concluded with a chilling warning: "Prepare yourself. The next phase is approaching." Ethan felt a cold wave of fear wash over him. The stakes were escalating, and the threat was now unmistakably directed at him. He realized that the only way to protect himself and those he cared about was to confront the source of the messages head-on. But how? Without knowing who or what was behind the emails, Ethan felt cornered and desperate. Determined to find answers, Ethan decided to revisit the location of his initial encounter, the park where he had met the mysterious stranger. Perhaps there were more clues to be found, or maybe the presence he had sensed before was somehow connected to the escalating threats. With Mia by his side, he set out to uncover the truth, unaware of the deeper darkness that awaited him and the lengths to which he would have to go to save himself and his friends. Ethan Matthews woke up with a lingering sense of dread. The events of the past weeks had left him exhausted, both mentally and emotionally. The constant barrage of premonitory emails had not only disrupted his daily life, but had also strained his relationships with friends and family. Determined to regain control, Ethan knew he had to find answers, no matter how elusive they seemed. After breakfast, Ethan sat down with Mia in the living room. Her presence was a small comfort amidst the chaos that had taken over his life. "Mia, we need to figure out who's behind these emails," he began, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "There has to be a reason why they're targeting us." Mia nodded, her eyes filled with concern. "I agree. Maybe there's someone who knows about that old email account or something from your past that you're not remembering." Ethan had considered that possibility before, but Mia's suggestion gave him a new direction. They decided to revisit the history of the blocked email account, hoping to uncover any connections that might explain the relentless messages. They began by sifting through old school records, social media profiles, and any available data related to the email address. Hours turned into days as they meticulously searched for clues, but the account remained shrouded in mystery. Frustration mounted as they hit dead ends at every turn. Just when Ethan was about to give up, Mia stumbled upon an old yearbook page featuring a student named Alex Turner, who had graduated a few years before Ethan had blocked the email account. The name sparked a memory that Ethan had long buried. Alex had been a quiet student, rarely interacting with others, and had disappeared shortly after graduation under suspicious circumstances. No one knew what had happened to him, and rumors of foul play circulated among the students. Could Alex be behind these emails? Mia wondered aloud. Or maybe someone who knew him? Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The connection seemed too significant to ignore. They decided to dig deeper into Alex Turner's disappearance, hoping to find any links to the current situation. Their investigation led them to the local library, where they pored over old newspaper archives and police reports. The details were sparse, but one article mentioned that Alex had been involved in a heated argument with a group of classmates before he vanished. No arrests were ever made, and the case remained open, haunting those who had known him. As Ethan and Mia delved further, they discovered that Alex had been fascinated by the occult and had spent countless hours researching supernatural phenomena. This revelation added a new layer to the mystery, suggesting that the emails might not just be random acts of harassment, but something more sinister tied to Alex's interests. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan reached out to one of his former teachers, Mrs. Thompson, who had been Alex's homeroom advisor. He hoped she might have some insight into his disappearance and any unusual activities Alex had been involved in. Mrs. Thompson agreed to meet with him after school, intrigued by his persistence. During their meeting, Mrs. Thompson revealed that Alex had been obsessed with an old legend about a cursed email account that could communicate with the living from beyond the grave. According to the legend, anyone who blocked the account would face dire consequences, as the spirit behind it sought to rectify the disruption. While Mrs. Thompson dismissed the story as a mere superstition, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that there was some truth to it. Armed with this new information, Ethan and Mia decided to explore the possibility that Alex's spirit was behind the emails. They sought out local paranormal enthusiasts and researchers, hoping to find someone who could help them navigate the supernatural aspects of their predicament. Their search led them to a small group called the Shadow Seekers, a community dedicated to investigating unexplained phenomena. Ethan attended one of their meetings, where he shared his story and the connection to Alex Turner. The group listened intently, offering theories and possible explanations. Among them was Dr. Laura Bennett, a seasoned paranormal investigator with a reputation for tackling challenging cases. She took a particular interest in Ethan's situation, suggesting that the emails could indeed be a form of communication from the other side, possibly linked to Alex's unfinished business. "We need to approach this systematically," Dr. Bennett advised. "If Alex's spirit is trying to reach out, there might be specific rituals or locations that can help us establish a connection and understand his intent." Ethan felt a mix of hope and apprehension. The idea of dealing with the supernatural was daunting, but he was desperate for answers. With Dr. Bennett's guidance, they began preparing for a seance, hoping to make contact with Alex's spirit and uncover the truth behind the haunted inbox. The night of the seance, Ethan, Mia, and the shadow seekers gathered in Ethan's basement, which they had converted into a makeshift investigation space. Candles flickered, casting long shadows on the walls, while the air grew thick with anticipation. Dr. Bennett led the ritual, her calm demeanor reassuring Ethan amidst the swirling tension. As the seance progressed, the room grew colder, and the flickering candles seemed to respond to unseen forces. Ethan felt a presence in the room, a chill that sent shivers down his spine. Suddenly, the computer screen in the corner flickered to life, displaying the blocked email account once more. A message appeared. "Why did you block me?" Ethan's heart raced. He felt a connection, an undeniable link to Alex's spirit. "Alex, is that you?" he whispered, his voice trembling. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the sound of the wind howling outside. Then, the screen flashed again, displaying a series of fragmented words, unfinished. "Business. Help." Dr. Bennett interpreted the message, suggesting that Alex's spirit was reaching out for assistance to resolve something from his past. Ethan realized that the key to stopping the emails and the impending danger lay in uncovering the truth about Alex's disappearance and helping his restless spirit find peace. With renewed determination, Ethan knew that his quest for answers was far from over. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was resolute in his mission to protect himself and those he cared about from the dark forces that sought to engulf his life. The days following the seance were a blur of intense emotions and relentless determination for Ethan Matthews. The revelation that Alex Turner's spirit was behind the haunting emails had ignited a new sense of purpose within him. He knew that to stop the disturbing messages and protect his friends and family, he needed to delve deeper into Alex's past and uncover the unfinished business that bound his restless spirit to the mortal realm. Ethan and Mia spent countless hours poring over the information they had gathered. They revisited the old newspaper archives and police reports, searching for any clues that might explain Alex's obsession with the occult and his mysterious disappearance. One evening, while sifting through a particularly old case file, Mia discovered a reference to a local legend known as the Cursed Inbox. According to the legend, the Cursed Inbox was an ancient email account rumored to be a conduit for spirits seeking closure. It was said that the account was created by a group of occult enthusiasts who believed they could communicate with the dead through digital means. However, their experiments had gone horribly wrong, trapping several spirits in an eternal loop of communication and preventing them from finding peace. This must be what Alex was involved in, Ethan mused, his mind racing with the implications. If he was part of that group, maybe his disappearance was related to their experiments. Determined to find out more, Ethan reached out to Dr. Laura Bennett, the paranormal investigator who had helped them during the seance. He explained the new information and the connection to the Cursed Inbox. Dr. Bennett listened thoughtfully before responding. "This legend aligns with what you've described," she said. "If Alex was part of that group, it's possible that the experiments trapped his spirit within the email account. To free him, we need to perform a ritual to break the curse and release his spirit from the digital confines." Ethan felt a surge of hope. What do we need to do? Dr. Bennett outlined a plan that involved gathering specific items related to the original ritual performed by the occult group. These items were believed to be key in reversing the curse and allowing the spirit to move on. She also warned that performing such a ritual could be dangerous, as it might provoke the angry spirits still trapped within the Cursed Inbox. With Dr. Bennett's guidance, Ethan and Mia began their quest to collect the necessary items. They reached out to former members of the occult group, now scattered and reluctant to speak about the dark experiments of their youth. Through persistent effort, they managed to locate one of the original ritual sites, a secluded cabin deep in the woods where the group had conducted their seances. The cabin stood silent and foreboding, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to watch their every move. Inside, they found remnants of the group's activities: dusty books on the occult, strange symbols etched into the walls, and remnants of old electronic devices that hinted at their attempts to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Ethan and Mia carefully searched the cabin, uncovering the last of the ritual items, a weathered journal belonging to Alex Turner. The journal detailed the group's experiments and the catastrophic failure, that led to Alex's disappearance. It also contained instructions for the ritual they believed could communicate with the spirits, though the final entry hinted at unforeseen consequences. As they left the cabin, the atmosphere grew heavier, and an unsettling silence settled over the woods. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. Determined to press on, they returned home with the journal and the remaining items, knowing that the next steps would be crucial in their fight against the supernatural forces threatening their lives. Back at Ethan's house, Dr. Bennett welcomed them with a grave expression. "Time is of the essence," she emphasized. "We need to perform the ritual tonight. The longer we wait, the stronger the spirits become." Under the dim light of Ethan's basement, they began to set up the ritual space. Candles were arranged in a precise pattern. The journal was placed at the center, and the remaining items were carefully positioned as instructed. The air grew thick with anticipation as Dr. Bennett began to chant the incantations, her voice steady and commanding. As the ritual progressed, the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. Shadows danced along the walls, and an oppressive presence filled the space. Ethan felt a surge of fear, but he clung to the hope that this would be the key to freeing Alex's spirit and stopping the haunting emails. Suddenly, the room was engulfed in a blinding light, and the candles flickered violently. The journal began to glow, and ethereal voices echoed through the basement, blending with the chants of Dr. Bennett. The air vibrated with energy as the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds seemed to dissolve. In the midst of the chaos, a figure materialized before them. Alex Turner, his presence both sorrowful and powerful. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice carrying a mix of relief and pain. "I've been trapped for so long." Ethan stepped forward, tears welling in his eyes. "We're here to help you, Alex. Tell us how to end this." Alex looked around, the weight of his long imprisonment evident in his eyes. The curse was never meant to trap spirits. It was a mistake, an experiment gone wrong. To break it, you must destroy the original source, the cursed email account. But be warned, doing so will sever the connection completely, and there's no turning back. Dr. Bennett nodded solemnly. "We understand. What do we need to do?" Alex guided them through the final steps of the ritual, providing the necessary incantations and actions to sever the curse. As they followed his instructions, the room began to stabilize, the oppressive presence lifting as the spirits were released from their digital prison. With a final burst of light, the connection to the cursed inbox was severed, and the room returned to its normal state. The candles burned steadily, and the heavy atmosphere dissipated, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure. Ethan felt a profound sense of relief as Alex's spirit faded, a smile of gratitude lingering on his face. "Thank you for freeing me," Alex said one last time before disappearing entirely. As the ritual concluded, Ethan, Mia, and Dr. Bennett stood in silence, absorbing the magnitude of what they had accomplished. The haunting emails had ceased, and the sense of being watched was finally lifted. They had broken the curse and brought peace to a tormented spirit. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to normal for Ethan and his loved ones. The lingering fear began to fade, replaced by a newfound appreciation for the strength of their bonds and the courage they had shown in the face of the unknown. Though the experience had left its mark, it also forged an unbreakable resilience within them, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and determination could triumph over fear. The days following the successful ritual were marked by an uneasy calm. Ethan Matthews tried to return to his normal routine, but the events of the past weeks lingered in his mind, casting long shadows over his daily life. The emails had ceased, and the oppressive presence that once filled his home was gone. Yet, a lingering sense of unease persisted, as if the ritual had only scratched the surface of something far more profound. One evening, as Ethan and Mia sat together in the living room, discussing their plans for the upcoming weekend, the atmosphere shifted. The temperature dropped abruptly, and a chill swept through the room, causing both siblings to shiver involuntarily. Ethan glanced around, half expecting to see the shadows dancing again, but everything appeared normal. "Mia, do you feel that?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, her eyes wide with concern. Yeah, it's like a cold breeze just hit us out of nowhere. Before Ethan could respond, the lights flickered and dimmed, plunging the room into semi-darkness. The once stable environment now felt unstable, as if the very fabric of their reality was being disturbed. Ethan's heart raced as he remembered the unsettling sensations that had preceded the emails. Suddenly, the computer in the corner of the room turned on by itself, the screen glowing with a familiar but dreaded sight. The blocked email account was active once more. The subject line read, "This isn't over." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Mia, stay back," he instructed, stepping forward cautiously. Mia took a step back, her expression mirroring his fear. The email contained a single sentence. "You thought you could stop us, but the balance must be maintained." Below the message was an attachment labeled "Final Warning." Ethan hesitated, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He knew that whatever had transpired during the ritual was not entirely resolved. The words echoed in his mind, hinting at a deeper, more sinister force at play. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan reached out to Dr. Laura Bennett once again. They arranged to meet at her office the following day, hoping she could provide further insights into the resurgence of the threat. Dr. Bennett listened intently as Ethan recounted the latest developments, her expression growing increasingly grave. This indicates that there are other entities or forces involved beyond just Alex Turner, she explained. The ritual we performed might have only addressed part of the problem. There could be a larger network or a more powerful entity orchestrating these events. Ethan felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. What can we do to stop it? Dr. Bennett leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his with unwavering determination. We need to delve deeper into the origins of the cursed inbox. There might be other artifacts or rituals that were part of the original experiments. It's possible that someone else is still trying to harness the power of this conduit. With a renewed sense of purpose, Ethan and Mia began to collaborate more closely with Dr. Bennett and the Shadow Seekers. They expanded their investigation, reaching out to former members of the occult group and scouring through ancient texts and digital archives. Each discovery unveiled new layers of the mystery, revealing that the cursed inbox was part of a much larger and more intricate web of supernatural activities. One night, while poring over a collection of old ritual books, Ethan stumbled upon a reference to a seal of binding, a powerful symbol used to contain and control spirits. The description suggested that the original group had created multiple seals to manage the influx of supernatural entities. If one seal was broken, it could potentially disrupt the entire system, allowing uncontrolled forces to enter their world. This might be the key, Ethan mused aloud. If we can locate and restore the remaining seals, we might be able to stabilize the situation and prevent any further breaches. Dr. Bennett nodded thoughtfully. It's a plausible theory. However, locating these seals won't be easy. They could be hidden in places of power or buried deep within forgotten sites. Undeterred, the team set out to identify potential locations where the seals might be hidden. Their research pointed them to several abandoned buildings, old cemeteries, and secluded natural sites known for their spiritual significance. Each location presented its own set of challenges, from navigating treacherous terrains to facing lingering supernatural defenses left behind by the original group. As they embarked on their quest, the atmosphere around Ethan grew increasingly tense. The once quiet suburban neighborhood now felt like a battleground between the natural and the supernatural. Strange occurrences became more frequent. Doors slammed shut without reason. Eerie whispers filled the night air, and shadowy figures appeared fleetingly in the corners of their vision. One evening, while exploring an old, dilapidated church rumored to be one of the seal locations, Ethan and Mia encountered a series of unsettling phenomena. The air inside the church was thick with an unspoken tension, and the scent of decay hung heavily in the air. As they ventured deeper into the nave, they found intricate symbols etched into the stone walls, matching the descriptions in the ritual books. "This must be one of the seals," Ethan whispered, tracing his fingers over the carvings. "We need to restore it, Following the instructions meticulously, they began to perform the ritual, reciting the incantations and positioning the artifacts as prescribed. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to writhe in response to their actions. As they completed the final steps, a surge of energy coursed through the church, and the symbols glowed with an ethereal light. The oppressive presence that had plagued them for weeks dissipated, replaced by a sense of calm and stability. Ethan felt a weight lift from his shoulders, but the relief was short-lived. As they exited the church, a dark figure emerged from the shadows, its presence exuding malevolence. The figure advanced towards them, its eyes burning with an unholy fire. "You cannot undo what has been done," it hissed, its voice echoing through the silent night. "The balance must be maintained, no matter the cost." Ethan stood his ground, fear and determination battling within him. "We won't let you harm anyone else. We'll find a way to stop you." The figure laughed, a sound that sent shivers down Ethan's spine. "You think you can challenge the forces at play? The balance is eternal, and your interference only hastens the inevitable." With those final words, the figure vanished, leaving Ethan and Mia alone in the darkened church. The encounter served as a stark reminder that their journey was far from over, and that the true nature of the threat they faced was more complex and dangerous than they had ever imagined. As they made their way back home, Ethan knew that each seal they restored was just one step in a much larger battle. The unknown forces behind the cursed inbox were relentless, and the stakes were higher than ever. Determined to protect those he loved and to finally bring peace to the restless spirits trapped by the curse, Ethan prepared himself for the challenges that lay ahead, aware that the confrontation with the unknown was only beginning. Ethan Matthews couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was reaching a critical juncture. The recent confrontation at the old church had only intensified the mysterious forces at play, making it clear that the battle to restore balance was far from over. Despite the temporary respite they had achieved by restoring the first seal, Ethan knew that the threat was evolving, becoming more personal and more immediate. One late evening, as Ethan sat in his room, reviewing notes and preparing for their next mission, his phone buzzed with a new email notification. His heart skipped a beat. The subject line was chillingly simple. The next step? He hesitated for a moment, the weight of previous messages pressing down on him, before opening the email. The message was terse but menacing. "You cannot escape what is destined. Prepare yourself for what is to come." Below the text was an attachment labeled "Final Warning." Ethan's hands trembled as he clicked to open it, revealing a photograph that sent shivers down his spine. The image showed him sleeping peacefully in his bedroom, captured from an angle he had never seen before. The room was exactly as he left it each night, but there was something profoundly unsettling about the way the photo captured him. His expression was serene, yet there was an undercurrent of fear lurking in his eyes. Ethan felt a cold wave of dread wash over him. How could someone have taken a photo of him without his knowledge? The sense of being watched had escalated to a whole new level, and the finality of the message left no room for doubt. He was now the primary target. Determined to protect himself and those he cared about, Ethan reached out to Dr. Laura Bennett for guidance. They met at her office, the air thick with tension as he recounted the latest email and the haunting photograph. Dr. Bennett listened intently, her expression serious. "This is the culmination of what we've been dealing with," she said thoughtfully. "The forces behind the cursed inbox are escalating their efforts to maintain the balance. Your role has become central to their plans, and they see you as a key element in their rituals." Ethan felt a surge of frustration and fear. What can we do to stop this? How do we prevent the final prediction from coming true? Dr. Bennett leaned forward, her eyes meeting his with unwavering determination. "We need to act swiftly. The final prediction indicates that the balance is about to tip, and the consequences could be dire. We must locate and secure the remaining seals before it's too late." With renewed urgency, Ethan, Mia, and Dr. Bennett convened with the Shadow Seekers to map out their next moves. Their research pointed to several potential locations where the remaining seals might be hidden, each site more remote and perilous than the last. Time was running out, and the pressure to act quickly mounted with each passing hour. As they prepared for their next mission, Ethan couldn't ignore the growing sense of vulnerability. The final prediction loomed over him, a constant reminder that his actions, or inactions, could determine the fate of not only himself, but also those around him. The burden of responsibility weighed heavily on his shoulders, but he knew that retreating was not an option. That night, Ethan tried to find solace in his room, but sleep eluded him. The photograph from the email haunted his thoughts, and the feeling of being watched was almost tangible. He glanced around, half expecting to see shadows creeping closer, but the room remained still. Determined to find answers, he decided to take proactive measures to secure his home. He installed additional security cameras, set up motion detectors, and even consulted with Dr. Bennett about protective rituals to ward off any malevolent entities. Despite these precautions, the sense of impending doom only intensified. Late one night, as Ethan was reviewing his security footage, he noticed something chilling. The camera in his bedroom had captured movement, an indistinct shadow slipping into his room while he was asleep. He froze, watching the footage replay in slow motion, heart pounding in his chest. The shadow lingered for a moment before dissipating, leaving no trace except the growing fear within him. Ethan knew that the final prediction was not just a threat, but a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. He couldn't ignore the signs any longer. Gathering his courage, he decided to revisit the old church where he had first encountered the malevolent figure. Perhaps there were more clues to be found, or maybe the answers he sought were hidden within its ancient walls. Accompanied by Mia and Dr. Bennett, Ethan made his way to the church under the cover of darkness. The structure stood silent and foreboding, bathed in the pale light of the moon. As they stepped inside, the air grew thick with an oppressive energy, and the familiar symbols etched into the walls seemed to pulse with a dark vitality. "We need to find the final seals," Dr. Bennett instructed, her voice steady despite the eerie atmosphere. "They are the key to restoring the balance and preventing the final prediction from coming true." As they navigated the shadowed corridors, Ethan felt a presence growing stronger, as if the very walls were closing in on them. They reached the heart of the church, where an altar stood surrounded by intricate carvings and remnants of past rituals. There, embedded in the stone, was the last seal, a complex symbol that resonated with a dark power. Ethan approached the seal cautiously, feeling the weight of destiny pressing upon him. He remembered the rituals they had performed earlier and knew that this final act would require all their knowledge and strength. With Mia and Dr. Bennett by his side, he began the incantations necessary to restore the seal and avert the impending disaster. As the words left his lips, the air around them crackled with energy. The symbols on the altar glowed brightly, and a surge of power coursed through the room. The presence that had haunted Ethan for weeks seemed to react violently, swirling around them in a vortex of darkness and light. The final prediction was at the precipice of realization, and Ethan's actions would determine whether it became a reality or remained a mere threat. In that moment of intense confrontation, Ethan felt a profound connection to the forces he had been battling. The culmination of his journey, the struggle against the unknown, the quest for answers, and the fight to protect those he loved, had led him to this pivotal point. As the ritual reached its climax, Ethan held on to the hope that his efforts would be enough to save himself and his world from the shadows that sought to consume them. The night was eerily quiet as Ethan Matthews returned home from the old church, the weight of the day's events pressing heavily on his shoulders. The final ritual had been a success, or so he hoped. The oppressive presence that had haunted his home for weeks had dissipated, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. Yet, the dark figure's warning lingered in his mind. The balance must be maintained, no matter the cost. Ethan entered his house, the familiar surroundings now seeming both comforting and unsettling. He glanced at Mia, who gave him a reassuring nod, her own anxiety masked by a determined resolve. Dr. Laura Bennett was waiting for them in the living room, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "We did it," Ethan said softly, sinking into a chair. "We restored the seal and freed Alex's spirit." Dr. Bennett nodded, though her eyes remained distant. "Yes, but remember what the figure said. There may be more to this balance than we understand. As if on cue, Ethan's phone buzzed with another email notification. His heart sank as he saw the familiar blocked email account had sent another message. The subject line was simple yet ominous. Final warning. He hesitated, the fear of facing another haunting message making his hands tremble. With Mia and Dr. Bennett by his side, he opened the email cautiously. The message was brief but chilling. You think you've won, but the darkness within you remains. Prepare for the final act. Below the text was an attachment labeled Last Glimpse. Ethan clicked on it, and the screen displayed a photograph of him sleeping, much like the one he had received before. However, this time, his reflection in the window behind him was distorted, twisted into a grotesque semblance of his true self. The image seemed to pulsate with a malevolent energy, as if it were alive. Ethan felt a surge of fear and frustration. What does this mean? How can we stop it? Dr. Bennett examined the photo carefully. This suggests that the curse has embedded itself deeper into your very being. The dark figure wasn't just an external force. It may represent a part of yourself that has been corrupted by the events we've faced. Mia placed a comforting hand on Ethan's shoulder. There has to be a way to cleanse it, to remove whatever is causing this. Determined to find a solution, Ethan and his team revisited the old journal they had found in the cabin. Dr. Bennett flipped through the brittle pages, stopping at an entry that detailed the original group's final ritual. One that went beyond restoring seals and aimed to completely eradicate the curse. We need to perform this final ritual, Dr. Bennett concluded. It's the only way to ensure that the darkness is fully banished and that you can live without fear. The instructions were complex, requiring precise timing and the use of all the artifacts they had gathered. Ethan knew that this would be their last chance to end the nightmare once and for all. As they prepared for the ritual, the atmosphere in the house grew tense, the air thick with anticipation and unease. That night, under the light of a full moon, Ethan, Mia, and Dr. Bennett gathered in the basement, the heart of the house where much of the supernatural activity had been concentrated. They arranged the artifacts in a specific pattern, as described in the journal, and began to chant the incantations with unwavering focus. As the ritual progressed, the temperature in the room plummeted, and shadows seemed to writhe and twist around them. Ethan felt an intense pressure building within him, as if the darkness was fighting against the cleansing process. His reflection in the basement window began to distort once more, the grotesque image reaching out toward him with tendrils of black energy. "We can do this," Mia urged, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Stay strong, Ethan." Dr. Bennett's voice cut through the turmoil. "Focus on the light, Ethan. Let it guide you through the darkness." Ethan closed his eyes, visualizing the light breaking through the shadows, pushing back the malevolent forces. He felt a surge of inner strength, drawing upon the courage and determination that had carried him this far. The chanting grew louder, more insistent, as the trio fought against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light filled the basement, and the oppressive presence was momentarily overwhelmed. The shadows recoiled, screaming in silence as the light pierced through them. Ethan felt a profound release, the weight of the curse lifting from his shoulders. When the light faded, the basement was calm and still, the air clear and warm. Ethan opened his eyes to see his reflection in the window, now serene and untainted. The final ritual had worked. The curse was broken, and the darkness had been vanquished. Exhausted but triumphant, Ethan sank to the floor, tears of relief streaming down his face. Mia rushed to his side, enveloping him in a tight embrace. Dr. Bennett stood nearby, a satisfied smile on her face. "We did it," Ethan whispered, his voice filled with gratitude and relief. As they made their way upstairs, the house felt different, lighter, freer. The lingering fears that had haunted Ethan for so long were gone, replaced by a newfound sense of peace and hope. The final prediction had been thwarted, and the balance had been restored. In the days that followed, life gradually returned to normal for Ethan and his loved ones. The haunting emails ceased entirely, and the sense of being watched was a distant memory. Ethan resumed his studies, reconnected with friends, and even returned to basketball with renewed enthusiasm. The ordeal had left its mark, but it had also forged a resilience within him that he never knew he possessed. One evening, as Ethan sat with Mia in their backyard, watching the sunset, he reflected on the journey they had endured. "I never thought something like this could happen to me," he admitted, "but I'm glad we faced it together." Mia smiled, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "We make a good team. I'm just glad it's over." Dr. Bennett occasionally checked in on them, ensuring that the final ritual had truly eradicated the curse. Each visit reinforced the bond they had formed during their shared struggle. The Shadow Seekers remained a close-knit community, always ready to assist if any new threats emerged. Ethan knew that the darkness could return, but he felt prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The lessons he had learned about courage, friendship, and the power of facing one's fears would stay with him forever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the house, Ethan felt a profound sense of closure. The nightmare was over, and he had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. With Mia by his side and the support of his friends, he was ready to embrace the future, knowing that he had the strength to overcome any darkness that might come his way.